I've been a teacher, I have been a school principal, I've been really heavily active in the community, and even though I'm currently a politician, I still keep that really close connection with the community.
How do you do that?
I do that by making certain that I'm visiting out with different groups. I constantly in contact with them. I like going to markets. I like going and interacting with people wherever I can. Really important that we keep those connections.
Is it hard being a list MP and staying in touch with your electorate?
I don't think it's hard at all. I think it gives you a bit of license to be able to go in outside of the remit of what an electorate MP has, although I would love to have the opportunity to be an electorate MP.
What are the biggest issues in the electorate?
Biggest issues for me are making certain that everybody has an equal access to everything that this wonderful electorate has to offer. It's a great electorate for people to live, to learn, to earn and to play in. But I also know that there's lots of people who miss out on many of those aspects of it because of the fact of housing that's something that's inaccessible for them, or it's really expensive for them. Also the fact that they don't have the money or the wherewithal to be able to access all of the supports that are available to them. So it's really important to me that everybody in this Tauranga electorate has the access to be able to thrive within their lives. Also, some of the aspects to make life easier for them, the moving around in this electorate is really important. So the public transport is incredibly important to give people that equal access.
So what would you do to help people move around this electorate?
Well, I think there's a lot that's going on already. We know that we've got a lot of transport work that's underway within the electorate to make sure that those transport nodes are free flowing throughout. Yes, there's a lot of pain that's going on at the moment because that work is continuing, but it's going to mean that it's a lot easier to move around this electorate once all that work is completed. Roads are part of the solution, but it's not just roads. If you keep building roads, people are only just going to put more cars on roads. We do need to look at the fact that we need that multimodal approach. Rail is one aspect, but we've also got to look at our bus network, and I think you've got to keep for the future the rail network open, the nodes open for that to happen, but let's work on the bus network first and ensure that that is a fit for purpose, really good public transport system that we have. We've also got to be really mindful that we have a changing climate, that we do have to look at reducing emissions. The way that we do that is to get cars off the road. That's not to say people shouldn't have cars, but let's look at how often we're using them and the fact that let's get more than one person in those cars as well. I often can see big lines of traffic and there'll be one person in all of those cars. We've got to look at a better way and a better solution.
What other issues are important in this electorate?
One of the aspects that people tell me when I go around is that skill shortages are big for them, and how do we fill those shortages? Immigration is one way that we can do that, but we must grow our own pipelines, and that's where we've got the regional skills leadership groups who will identify the needs that we have, but also work with the education and training providers to ensure that we are getting those young people who are coming through from schools then into the tertiary sector and making certain that we're getting the right people trained with the best skills.
With that tertiary sector, Tauranga really needs a university.
Tauranga has a university.
Waikato University.
Yeah, so Waikato University have set up a really big campus here and it is amazing. I'd have to say that since that's been open, we're doubled the number of young people who are coming in and accessing that campus now. What we're also seeing is the number of young people who are going from school here in Tauranga and staying in school.
There's an issue though around the Bond Guard Centre. The university wanted to expand here, but they weren't allowed to because that space went to Kāinga Ora.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. Kāinga Ora are not interested in it.
So it's going to go to...
So it goes through a LINZ process, but it is something that Waikato University will have to work that through, but it's obvious that that is a space that is an education campus. So hopefully that they will be able to be realistic, but also be able to enter into negotiations around being able to buy that building, but it's definitely not kāinga ora.
What can you do for young people struggling to find a home to rent or struggling to buy their first home?
First and foremost, we need to ensure that we're building houses, and we're building houses at a rate that we haven't seen for many years. In fact, of all our state houses, 1 in 6 of them have been built in the last 6 years, and that's an amazing figure to see. We haven't been building at this rate since the 1970s, and that's great. That will get us some way, but we've also got to make certain that we don't let foreign buyers back into that home market again.
Rem raids have been in the news for quite a while, and it seemed to take quite a while for any kind of response to that.
I think there's been quite a few responses to it, but it's making certain that the responses that we really ramp up are the ones that are going to make the biggest difference. We know that research shows that just coming down hard on crime is not going to have the big impact that people think it would. Now, it would for maybe me, and it would maybe for you, because that's what would motivate us, is to see that if you did something wrong, that you were going to have a consequence. But if you're someone who is that disaffected and that removed from society because you don't feel that you belong, the consequence that might work for me is not going to necessarily be the consequence that's going to work for that particular young person. I've recently been up to Kotahi Te Whakaaro, which is the pilot that's been working up in South Auckland about the wraparound, and is having such a huge success rate around these young people that are being involved in these ram raids and these youth crimes. It sounds simple, but it's how we haven't worked as society ever, and that's pulling down those barriers between the silos that exist in government departments and completely wrapping around these young people, and they are having a huge success rate. In fact, over 80% of the young people are not reoffending, and they're also able to help siblings and friends and other people that they come across. We must make certain that those young people are supported, but first and foremost that our victims have the support around them as well.
How can we stop people from committing crime in Tauranga?
Well, Tauranga is an amazing place to be, and we need to make certain, as I've said before, that people are feeling included and belonging as part of society. The more that people feel that and understand other people's perspectives, the less likely people are to commit crime against others. We also need to sort out poverty. Poverty is something that's a big driver behind why people want to become involved in crime in the first place.
Yeah, and that's all long-term stuff, but people need action now.
Yeah. There's a mixture of things there. We need to make certain, for example, that those places, those retail places that are most at risk have the right supports that are around them. So the fog cannons, the barriers that are up in front, so that it disincentivises people straight away to not go into those places because they know that those things are in place. And that's happening now. But at the same time, as I've said, crime is not good enough. There does have to be the consequences as well. They are there. We've just brought in new ram raiding offences.